Hey there, and welcome to UTalk. We connect with extraordinary people across Canada and ask them about their stories, passions, and experiences. I'm your host, Ryan Funk. Islam is a faith followed by approximately a quarter of the world's population and comprises many diverse cultures and ethnicities. It's unfortunate we've seen so much hate and resentment towards Muslims. With nationalism and misinformation over social media, there's been an increase in Islamophobia during the pandemic. Our guest for UTalk has been heavily involved in the Manitoba Islamic Association and recently published his book, Manitoba Muslims, A History of Resiliency and Growth.
Thank you for the invitation. My name is Ismail Mukhtar. Originally, I come from Eritrea. And by profession, I am a chartered professional accountant, CPA. In terms of my involvement with the Muslim community, I've been the ex-president of the Manitoba Islamic Association, and I am also the editor-in-chief of the Manitoba Muslim magazine. And as you mentioned, I'm a recent publisher of a book on the history of Muslims in Manitoba.
Yeah, so you are pretty busy and wear a lot of hats. What brought you to Canada?
Well, I guess, my country is a nice country, but unfortunately there was some political upheaval, there was war. So it was not a safe place to live in. So like everyone else, I just left the country, became refugee, and then finally came to Canada.
It's never good to hear these stories of political unrest.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the reality of the world. But, it's good to come to a wonderful country like Canada where, opportunities are available and people can establish a new life.
Establishing here in Manitoba, the Manitoba Islamic Association. What is it and what does it do?
Okay, well, the Manitoba Islamic Association is the first Islamic organization, first registered and incorporated Islamic organization. It was founded in 1960. And basically, it's an organization that serves the Muslim community. It manages the two major mosques in the city and organizes different religious, social activities and brings all the members of the community together and also acts as a bridge to the larger faith community. So basically, it is the main organization that represents Muslims in the province.
How long were you involved in the organization?
From the day I came, I have been actively involved in the organization and in different capacities. As a volunteer, I was, as I mentioned, at one time I was president, editor-in-chief of a magazine. I was in different committees, projects. So as long as I've been in Winnipeg, I've been an active volunteer of the organization.
Why do you think it's important to have an organization like this, and why was it important to yourself to be involved on that level?
Well, I guess the community has certain needs, has religious needs, social needs, economic needs, educational needs, and that can only be met when you have a body that is functioning in an organized and effective way. You can't accomplish that without an organization. So, like every faith community, Manitoba Islamic Association tries to meet all the particular unique needs of the community, and from that point of view, it was essential, and that's why once the community started to establish itself, the first thing community did in 1960 was to establish Manitoba Islamic Association.
For newcomers who come over to have that kind of sense of community and familiarity.
Well, it's not only newcomers, but even those who are established here, establishing If we want to have a community where people can understand one another, a community where people are tolerant of one another, people, understand one another, then you need to build bridges. And one of the purposes of establishing an organization such as Manitoba Islamic Association is to build bridges and to open avenues for other groups to know who Muslims are and to create a better overall understanding.
Now is a great opportunity to talk a little bit about what is Islam and the Muslim peoples. I mean, like any religion, it can have very different interpretations depending on the person. I guess from your perspective, since you were heavily involved in the Manitoba Islamic Association, what is Islam?
Well, Islam is the faith that is followed by basically a quarter of a world population. And Muslims are found all over the world, in every continent, in every country. And it's a growing community in Canada, in Manitoba. Muslims believe in the oneness of the Creator. They believe in day of resurrection. They believe in the purposefulness of life. They have certain ethics that they follow based on the teachings of Islam. To be truthful, to be kind to neighbors, to be kind to parents, to share the wealth that you have. And accordingly, Muslims have certain rituals, such as praying 5 times a day, in order to have that spiritual connection with their Creator, fasting once a year as part of their spiritual development, paying a percentage of their net worth to help the needy and the poor. So these are just general, principles of the faith and the religion. And there are many common elements between Islam and Judaism and Christianity.
Oh, those sound very similar. I guess they're all kind of like the Abrahamic kind of a circle.
Yeah. I mean, Muslims, similar to Christians and Jews, they believe in Abraham and they believe in all the other prophets, and they see them as role models and people whom they regard with high respect.
Yeah, so just for clarification, Islam is the faith and Muslims are the people, correct?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Islam and Muslim peoples have been incredibly demonized, since the early 2000s and before then, which is just horrible to see in Western culture, and it hasn't been until recently, at least in media, that we've seen, more positive representation. Do you feel people are becoming more respectful and open to Islam? And how have your experiences and I guess the Islamic Association's experiences been in Manitoba?
Well, unfortunately, when people, do not have the right information, sometimes they become stereotypical and they look at others with an eye of suspicion, and all kinds of misperceptions persist in the minds of people. Fortunately, in Manitoba, our experience is not as bad as it has been in some other provinces in Canada. But overall, I think Manitobans are very friendly, are very open, are very understanding. But you will find, still there is some people who still have some fear towards Islam, some stereotypical views of Islam. So overall, our community is very well connected to the larger society. So we are active members, working in every walk of life. So generally, I think things are positive, but still there are challenges. We had different instances in the past where our mosque was vandalized, and there was some hateful articles written here and there. But the more people know about Islam, about Muslim community, the more people start interacting, reaching to one another. I think we can combat hate, and with more information, with more openness, I think hopefully we will be able to tackle that in the future.
The more you meet people of like different ethnic backgrounds, different faiths or cultures, you really find out that everyone's kind of pretty similar, and kind of down to the edge there. You're just people trying to live their lives, be happy, healthy,
be kind. Yeah. So it's unfortunately it's the ignorance that creates suspicion and fear among people. All of us, we're trying to live our life, raise families, being kind to the people around. So we all share the good universal values, and every community and every faith group has some bad apples, and Muslims like anyone else. But generally speaking, people are kind and caring, and trying to be as helpful as they can.
It can be a real struggle since Western cultures definitely seem to always want to depict someone as the enemy. It was like the Red Scare with like communists back in the day.
Yeah.
Then it was Muslims, and now they're kind of shifting over to China.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's been like that. I mean, the Asians went through this, the Jews went through this. So it's a phase, but I think with more education, with more interaction, with more information, people change their perceptions, and they start accepting one another.
So October was Islamic Heritage Month. How do you feel this year went, and why is it important to have a month like this?
This year and last year, it was, a low profile, and partly or understandably, that's because of COVID-19 restrictions. But in previous years, we used to have more activities, more physical and face-to-face activities, but there were some activities happening online. So, as I said, a little bit low profile this year and last year. But the whole purpose of Islamic History Month is to, share our historical heritage, create better awareness of the civilizational contribution of Muslims, create a more inclusive understanding. The more people know each other, the more they would respect one another, they would appreciate one another. So the whole purpose of Islamic History Month, as part of other initiatives that the community takes to create a broader positive understanding across communities, so that we will have a better place to live in and would be able to better understand one another, and also share our collective experience, and that way we make our society, our communities, our country a better place to live.
I think it's interesting, just like the diversity that is found throughout Muslim populations, because it's one of the three major religions on the planet, and it just covers so many different cultural and ethnic populations.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we are very, very diverse community. I mean, if you come to our large gatherings, you'll find people from almost every country, every language, every ethnicity, every culture, every dress. It's just an amazing, amazing gathering. And you don't need to travel to different places in the world. Just come there and you'll meet people from every walk of life. And personally, I have enjoyed that diversity, and I've come to experience firsthand culture and values and traditions of other countries, which I haven't been there, but locally, by interacting with the people who come from those regions, that's an amazing experience.
Yeah, it gives you a sneak peek, of what life is like in other places.
Definitely, yeah, you're right.
If someone comes to one of these events as things continue to open up and restrictions continue to ease and things get safer, when someone comes to events or different celebrations, what do you hope people who are not part of the Islamic community take away when they come check out some of this stuff?
Well, I think they will feel the warmth of the community, and they would be surprised how welcoming the people are, and they would come to see firsthand who Muslims are, what they do, how they look like, and just to come to realize that Muslims are like anyone else. So I think we occasionally have open houses for people to come and talk to Muslims and learn about Islam. But our mosques are also open. Of course, there are COVID restrictions right now, but generally people from schools, from different faith groups, they just call the mosque. They come and they visit the mosque, they see the people praying. So yeah, anybody is welcome at any time. And if there were people want to book time, they can call the Manitoba Islamic Association. There is a website, and everybody is most welcome.
When someone comes and they meet Muslims, they'll find out that they're just like everyone else. It just reminded me of some data from down in the United States. I think it's Islamic groups and Muslim peoples are some of the largest groups that integrate the most quickly, at least down in the United States, which I think is just very interesting.
Yeah, I guess it would be the same thing even in Canada. I mean, the Muslims are very, very much involved in every walk of life. There is a good percentage of Muslims in the health sector, in the in finance, in business, in every walk of life. So they are active, participants in whatever happens around in society. So yeah, they are very well integrated. And
when you're very involved in a community, of course you're gonna kind of figure everything out very quickly, just how things work in that designated area.
Definitely, yeah.
Recently published a book. Yeah. What can you tell me about the book that you published, and what inspired you to write a book on Manitoba Muslims?
Well, I guess this is the first of its kind in terms of it is the first book that documents the history of Muslims in the province of Manitoba. And the book goes as far as 1900s, early 1900s. That's the time Muslims started to arrive in the province of Manitoba. So it talks about, the challenges that those early immigrants face in terms of language, in terms of finding jobs, in terms of integration. And there are many stories in the book about these early immigrants, how they were successful in businesses. Many of them established businesses, married locally, had large families. So basically their stories beginning from 1900 and then going all the way to the larger immigrant waves who started coming in the 60s and 70s, the formation of the Manitoba Islamic Association, the establishment of the first mosque in 1976 in Manitoba, and then all the different institutions that were established at the last, at the later years, including the largest mosque that we have in the province, which was established in 2007. And along with that, talking about some of the challenges the community had, internal or external issues such as Islamophobia, also issues in terms of working with other communities such as the indigenous community, the interfaith group. So it's an attempt to document and to cover every aspect of the life of the community from the early 1900s to 2020.
Did you find any challenges when you were kind of writing it and trying to find all the historical information and document it?
Yeah, it was very challenging. I mean, as I said, this is the first attempt to document the history of Muslims in the province. So being the first timer, it's a hit and miss. So I have to dig through the archives of the Winnipeg Free Press, the Brandon Sun, all the newspapers of the day to gather as much information as possible. I have to interview different people, go through the different archives. So it was challenging, but at the same time also it was an amazing learning experience for me.
Well, of course, you're going through, you're learning about people's lives like before your own in a time that's almost alien to what we're living now.
I mean, even for me, I came to learn many things that I wasn't aware of. I mean, the early Muslims who came in the 1900s, their history was practically forgotten, and not many people knew about it. But after doing so much research and digging in the archives, I found things that it was an eye-opener. I mean, I found that there was an active and well-established community in those days, which not much was known about. So the book, unveils that aspect of the history of the community.
It's always fun learning a little bit about, your people's backgrounds and history. I know for myself, I'm from a Mennonite background.
Yeah.
So just finding out about them moving from Central Europe here to Manitoba and kind of across the prairies, and some going down to Central and South America.
Yeah.
It's very interesting just hearing about finding out about the change.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how we come to fully grasp the extent and the depth of our collective history when we, document how the Mennonites came, how the Jews came, how Muslims came, how different communities came, how they interacted, how they reach out to the indigenous community. By pulling all those pieces together, then we can have a more inclusive history that gives us all a better understanding of who we are.
Now that you've taken on this endeavor, do you have any hopes or wants to tackle a different kind of book, or maybe an historical documentary kind of style series again like this?
Yeah, maybe down the road. But if time to permits, maybe I can write something about my experience as a refugee who came from a distant place and having experienced war and being a refugee and coming through to Canada and going through the process of working your way up and going through the education system and so on and so forth. So maybe one day I could try to write that story, but that's not, nothing immediate on the radar.
Speaking of refugees, I guess just in your experience, what can individuals like myself or others, civilians, as well as our governments do better to help individuals who are, running from a terrible situation?
I think the main thing is really to be welcoming to people. Discrimination and stereotyping and all these barriers that people find limit their ability to achieve their potential. So accepting people, giving them opportunity, being understanding, because a new immigrant who comes here, they go through a period of learning, a period of adjustment. And the last thing they need when they go through this period is, facing discrimination, facing artificial hurdles on their path. The more they find acceptance, the more they find people willing to give them direction, help them integrate quickly, they do better. And I think that's something that we can all do. It's not just the government, but as communities, as individuals in different capacities, being aware that, Canada, by and large, other than the indigenous people, we all came as immigrants. Some came from Europe, some came from Africa, some came from Asia. Everybody went through that process of adjustment. And those communities that found acceptance and positive support, they did better. And when everybody does better, we all collectively also do good to ourselves.
I 100% agree. So where can people go to find out more information about the Manitoba Islamic Association, or to find out more about your book?
Yeah, I guess for Manitoba Islamic Association, the association has a website. The Manitoba is miaonline.org, or they can visit the main mosque on Waverly Street. My book is available on Friesen Press, and also it's available Amazon and other online bookstores. My book also talks about Manitoba Islamic Association. That will also give you some information about how it was formed and what kind of activities it organizes, and then so on and so forth. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what was the title of your book again?
Manitoba Muslims, A History of Resilience and Growth.
If you have any stories you'd like us to share or communities we should highlight, leave a comment on our social media or reach out to us on our website. I'm Ryan Funk. This was You Talk, and have yourself a good one.